it's Nick, CEO of ILUS International. I just thought I would check in. It's been a while since I communicated directly with you guys, so I just thought we would do a little catch up on all the different topics of where we are, all the milestones. As a team, we're ploughing forward as fast as we can on every topic. Everything we've put out has or is about to materialize. Although we may have got a slight slippage in the odd area, a lot of the areas we're actually far ahead of where we expected to be. So I think all in all, we're in good shape. We're in really good shape, and we're looking really forward to the rest of 2022. We've been working really hard through 21, building the foundations, which are really paramount to a successful business. I know sometimes in the OTC people get impatient with expecting instant results and expecting instant 1000% increases. Ultimately, those of you that are in business or have business or anything to do with the business will know it doesn't work like that. You always have a business plan of A to B, and there's usually a few stopovers in between A and B. That's just how business goes. And the successful ones are the ones that are patient, persistent, and really believe in what they're trying to do, and ultimately have a good solid team around them. And that team involves shareholders, insiders, outsiders, the actual management team, and the staff all the way to the bottom of the food chain, the ones that are sweating on the production floor. And I'm pleased to say that I believe we have a very strong team in all areas, and we hiring ferociously in both in the US and in Dubai, and in Eastern Europe, to expand our business footprint and expand the different parts of the business, being three sort of categories: one being the manufacturing, two being the distribution, which is the actually getting the products into the market, and three being the technology enhancement. So the technology enhancement is obviously fundamental for our longer term plans. We're certainly not out there to be a one-trick pony, bring one product to market, and once that's in the market, we're going to sit back and relax. It's certainly not our game plan. So anyway, more on the different milestones to come. Just to talk a little bit about the deals on the table at the moment, there have been, some of them have been introduced on, PRs over the last coming weeks and months. There'll be more news on those again over the next week or so, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks out. There's sort of a steady flow of deals. As you know, we sort of closed the first round of acquisitions early part of this year during the first quarter. Some of them dragged over to early part of this quarter, but ultimately we delivered on all the deals that we said we would. Regarding the going forward deals, our strategy still remains very clear. We're acquiring manufacturing opportunities to expand our footprint and our global opportunity. We're expanding in the distribution sector, where we're looking to acquire distribution businesses that have got routes to market and stable customer bases that allow us to put all of our products through those distribution channels, which will allow us to increase our revenue quickly. And the third thing is the technology enhancement. This particular round of acquisitions is heavily focused on the technology side of things. That's particularly where we're going to get more longer upturn valuations, but ultimately they help to glue the whole picture together. We've spoken about our IoT platform, we've spoken about wildfire in the past, we've spoken about all the problems that the world is facing. So this round of acquisitions is very much geared toward that sort of strategy. And we've as I think we've spoken before in the shareholders meetings and some of our shareholder catch-ups, we're always at any one time working on a number of deals, of which the minority make it through the due diligence process. But once they've sort of reached to the due diligence process, the final due diligence process, we've agreed terms, heads of terms, we've signed a letter of intent. That's sort of the time that we'd sort of first make you guys aware of the actual deal or the deal structures or sort of the actual deals that are coming up. We typically we're not telling you just the deals that we're talking about, because there's hundreds of them, or not hundreds, but certainly tens. I know we've mentioned some of these deals, but we've got some deals coming through in the wildfire sector. There's two particular ones that we're looking at and pretty close to. I think we may get announcements in the coming days, all being well. And those would give us a global footprint into 2 or 3 continents. And wildfire is obviously one of the fastest growing sectors in the market. And I mean, pretty much as you're following the news, there's California fires going, there's all sorts of fires going globally again as we go into the summer months, so the problem gets worse. And the wildfire technology businesses that we're looking at are very much technology orientated, but they've got real scale and are very scalable as terms of selling globally, specifically into the US market and South America. So we're very comfortable in the way those deals are going, and that would again fall into place with allowing us, to use our drones in future, our IoT platforms in future, some of our wildfire trucks, some of the equipment that Bullhead manufactures, some of the equipment that Georgia Fire distributes. So we're happy with those sort of plans. And then we've got some communication, specialist communication in the fire and rescue sector businesses that we're exploring. So that would fall into our IoT sort of longer term strategy, longer term plans. And as you know, we've got the joint venture partnership with 911 Inform. So again, you can sort of see how all the pictures of the pieces of the puzzle come together. So that those are all going. Then we're working on a significantly big deal, which we've mentioned before. It's into the hundreds of millions of revenue. It's not the one that we've been mentioning, for in terms of an uplist, but it's an opportunity that's come along that would suit our business very, very well. We've explored it. We are pretty close to agreeing terms with the board, with their board. We're not there yet, so don't get me wrong. We've still got some hurdles to overcome, but we're pretty sure of the way we're structuring it and the way we're planning to do the deal that we can pull it off, and it will probably be very beneficial to us, and certainly beneficial to the overall balance sheet of ILUS. And some parts of that business will be very suitable for the ERT business as well, to allow us to expand that manufacturing footprint much quicker than we initially had anticipated, specifically around the oil and gas sector. So, those are some deals that are coming through in the short, medium term, as well as there's a defense business which we've mentioned a few times. Again, we're not over the final hurdle, but we're getting pretty close in terms of the deal structuring, and in terms of how we would finance it and how we will structure, the management going forward. And certainly we'll be able to add a lot of value to all of those businesses in the next sort of phases too. So, I just want you guys to know that we're very active. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes, because you don't see me regularly on podcasts and on social media. I'm usually at my desk grinding away, getting stuff done. I think we don't want to get distracted with the noise. I continue to drive the team daily. We have to entertain the noise, we have to listen to the noise, and we have to engage to a certain extent, but ultimately it's not the noise that's going to build its long-term business. In 3, 4, 5, 10 years time, when our share price is substantial and we've got a number of subsidiaries that are listed on the big boards, and ILUS itself is a mega powerhouse, it's not going to be the noise you remember. It's going to be the delivery of targets, the delivery of milestones that makes that count, and that's very much what we focused on. And I'm very grateful to Louise and Murti and JP, specifically JP, being in the front taking the bullets on a daily basis. And I'm grateful for that team. I very believe in that team in every way, in every possible form. They're grinding day and night for you guys. We're busy building that management team around them. Very much in the ERT business, but as well as in the ILUS business on its own. We're very conscious that we probably need to add another 5 to 10 bums on seats at a very high level management position. But it's also about us not overstretching in terms of capital demands. We don't want to be stuck in this no man's land where we need premium people, but obviously premium people come with premium salaries. So, but we also don't want to employ junior people, because we can afford them, because we know within the next 3 to 6 to 9, 12 months we've outgrown those juniors, and we really need the more senior people on our boards. So we're pretty close on announcing some board members, especially for the ERT business, for the bigger plans. And in the meantime, the team are heads down and focusing on everything we're doing. So, please don't think we are not as engaged on the noisy front as you guys probably would like, but no, while we're being quiet, we're at work doing the job, and it's the job that counts. So regarding the much discussed potential uplist or potential spin out, as I think a lot of people have been discussing over the last 6-9 months, we are very well on track with our bigger term business plans, and they'll become pretty clear to everybody in the coming weeks. We are a little bit behind, where we would like to have been, but that probably, for a number of reasons, the main was a positive reason for ILUS, is that we were able to get fully audited. So that was a fundamental step forward for us in the ILUS core business, not the ERT business, because that potentially speeds up everything in ILUS that we will be able to be fully reporting very, very soon. The audit is more or less finished, a couple of last little snags, but we would anticipate them being finished either this week or next week, and then we can go through the formalities for ILUS to become a fully reporting business, which I think will be very important to the company, important to you guys as shareholders, certainly be important to, to start to, let's say, fight back against the short sellers, and I think that'll all be useful, and it'll also be very useful in terms of the quality of capital we can raise going forward. That's in the ILUS business. So obviously we needed to get that audit done, and decided that it made sense for us to, let's say, delay or roll out our bigger plans, push them forward a month or two while we were getting that audit done. So regarding the bigger plans, we've appointed the attorneys. We're in the final stages of the engagement with the investment banks, and that all those information and those details will start to come pretty soon. So we're pretty sure, we can't say too much, as but we're pretty sure that you'll be very satisfied with what we're about to offer you. So while our responsibility is not to trade or really focus on the share price too much, our responsibility is to build a strong business and make it clear to the shareholders of exactly what's going on in the business, and get the shareholders buy into our business, into our strategy, into our team. And then ultimately it's up to you guys, the shareholders, to really dictate what happens to the share price. I think over the last, let's say, 5 years, maybe a little bit more, the parity between a company's real balance sheet and the technology value and the profit and loss statements of a company, perhaps have not been in parity with share prices in any business, whether it's Nasdaq, New York, London stock, it doesn't really matter. I think some of the valuations have been a little bit crazy, and I think now we're sort of going through a little bit of a period where, there's been a little bit of a reset. And on this basis, I'm probably more confident than ever in our business and the long-term value of our share price. And I'll tell you why I say that is, when inevitably the world is going to go through a bit of a cool-off period now over the next coming months. Let's hope it's not years, but certainly coming months. With inflation and employment figures, whether it's the dollar and the pound strength, the yield curve, oil prices, wars in Ukraine, Russia, you name it, there's, certainly we've got a strong headwind coming at us. However, during this period, usually the businesses that come out pretty strong, and bear in mind this is not the first time this happens regularly, this is a typical cyclical behavior of the stock markets and the world in general. But usually what happens during these periods is the shareholders and investors typically still sit on a lot of cash. There's still a lot of piles of cash out there that will be deployed. Nobody's going to sit with that cash in their pocket. But typically while they're deploying that cash, they're looking at businesses which are cash flow generative, have strong asset base, are scalable, and most importantly solve a problem. This is from my experience anyway. Bear in mind, I'm not a trading advisor and I'm not giving you investment advice. This is sort of, from a commercial CEO point of view. When you're looking to deploy money into a stock, typically we would imagine that for the longer term anyway, and the medium term holders, you're going to be looking at a business that is likely to be around in a year, 2 or 5 or 10 years time. And those are going to be businesses that are solving problems, not necessarily businesses that are purely speculative to be the next hot thing. It's not a speculative, the next NFT that you might make $1 million tomorrow, but you also might lose everything. So, we're certainly not in that category. We are very much a problem-solving business. The world has got major issues with water shortages, globalization, the cities are becoming taller, wider, more congested. There's more and more fire risks as we become more automated, more electronics. I mean, how many mobile phone chargers or charging devices do you have plugged into your house at home? All of those are fire risks. Every single one of those are fire risks. There's more and more lithium batteries, EVs, electric cars, scooters, drones, you name it. Everything's becoming electrified. And the more and more that happens, the more and more fire risk there's going to be, which is exactly where our business comes in. We are solving real life problems with real life solutions that add a lot of value and ultimately save a lot of people and a lot of governments money and lives. and save the environment while we're doing it. So, we believe that our business model is perfectly in track. We're perfectly sync for this type of market conditions. We're pretty resilient to a recession as far as resilience can be. There wouldn't be many businesses that can be as strong as us through a recession period. And typically it's a sad scenario, but it's the fact of the matter that fire in general actually usually hits more when it's tougher times, because people cut costs on maintenance of equipment. They try and run their equipment for an extra year or two instead of buying new, which is when the technical faults and the electrical faults start to come in. The fire brigades, all these type of things, try and cut the odd corner here and there, in terms of their preventative measures. Companies cut costs in their preventative measures, and typically that's where we come in, because the fires start to come thick and fast, and ultimately life has to be protected. There's no alternative. Insurance doesn't provide for a recession and say, oh, sorry, because you're having a tough time, you don't need to cover yourself. It doesn't work like that. So we feel that we're going to be able to add a lot of value in the medium term, certainly, through this recession, and we're not particularly concerned about it. So, the knock-on effect to the short-term share price, it is what it is. Though much as I hate those words, someone said to me once that people that use those words are typically not very ambitious because they just accept the status quo, which is definitely not our business. And I think those of you that have been following us, since January last year will know that's not our attitude. But what I'm trying to say now is, where the share price currently is, we although we're not happy with it, and we feel a little bit ripped off, to cut it blankly, we're not concerned about it. We know where we're trying to go. We know certainly in the next short term, I know we normally talk medium long term, but certainly in the next short term there's a lot of extremely exciting things to come out. There's some extremely exciting news features to be announced. Pretty much most of them and are expecting. You don't know the details, but you're expecting the details of the news to be announced, which we are almost at the point of doing, which we would naturally expect. Hopefully should have some type of effect, and as the market is sort of starting to stabilize, hopefully, and people start to consider carefully what types of stocks they're going to invest in, we would hope we become an attractive proposition to investors, the current investors, to stay longer, and also to outside investors who may take a careful look at their portfolio and actually decide that we actually look like a pretty good option. So, yeah, as I said earlier, we're not there to let's say promote or trade the share price. That's not our job. That's very much your job, but it is our job to deliver a good, solid business that makes you want to invest in us, and that we are doing and will continue to do. Right, just to touch base on the SS update, which is obviously the much discussed topic continually, and and understand, we all understand, as the board and the management, that it's frustrating for you guys, sometimes investing what you feel blindly because you're not actually sure what's going on behind the scenes or under the covers. We've laid out our points pretty clear, repetitively on numerous occasions and consistently. Our goal is still to get the SS as close to 1 billion as we can. So, and as we've mentioned before, there was a reason why we didn't allow the OTC to connect with the TA correctly, continually, and have continual updates, because there were multiple movements up and down continually, and we didn't want the market to be, excited on one day when there was a reduction, and then crying the next day when there was an increase, and excited the next day, because it has been a roller coaster as we remove and increase shares. It's both ways. But our ultimate goal with our planning is we're hoping we're going to get somewhere around 1 billion, 1.1 billion, which we're not a long way off. Bear in mind the disclosure that was put out for quarter one end was at the 31st of March. So since then there's been a whole bunch of reductions. So we're more or less on track with where we've said we're going to be. And the OTC has been instructed to now update. So I think that may come through, I don't know exactly, usually they do it on the 15th and the 1st of the month. The OTC and the TA, that connection has now been reconnected. So it may come through sooner, it may come through on the 1st. We've instructed them if they can do a manual update, they will. However, that's a little bit out of our control. Since the March end, there has been another 120 million shares off the SS. So, ultimately we're going to be roughly where we said we were. And regarding the share lockup, which is sort of comes under the same topic, it's a work in progress, and it's also critically about timing, and it's critically about us being able to present the full picture to investors to make it attractive. We don't want to put out and say, there's a share lockup available and this is how it's going to work, and the market's in a turmoil, our share price is not where we want it or expect it to be, and then a lot of shareholders saying, well, I'll probably pass on this one, maybe I'll look at it the next time. We don't want that to be the situation. And I think we are right on the cusp, right on the cusp. I mean, weeks, not months, but weeks away of the entire plan unfolding for all the shareholders to see exactly what is the game and exactly how this next phase is going to approach and next phase is going to benefit them, which we expect will add considerable shareholder value. As you know, from day one, I think, again, it sounds like a stuck record. We must have said that 100 times since we started January last year. But that is the facts of the matter. So, we would expect in the next weeks to be able to announce that share lockup strategy of how it's going to work, and that'll sort of come more or less in conjunction with the bigger plan, which again we've mentioned numerous times, but there'll be some fundamental milestones announced in the coming weeks about that. And as that sort of announces, it'll become clear the lockup, the value of the lockup, and the incentives behind the lockup, and whether people want to take that up or not. And we hope that will be another fundamental step in reducing our SS. We feel over the last sort of, let's say, 3 to 6 months, there's been a big flush out of our investor base, good, bad, and the ugly. And we feel now that we're sort of on a much more stable, longer-term shareholder base, and we're hoping that this sort of consolidation period that we had is going to be ultimately good for the business in the long run. And as you know, our vision is always in the long term. While we're protecting shareholder short-term interests, our vision is to build this business. Not even for 1, 2, or 5 years, but for 20 years and generations to come. And we want this to be a brand name like Berkshire Hathaway, GE, etc. So and that takes us, as I've said before, getting these fundamental pillars in place, and we're doing that. We're doing well with it. We believe we've been true to our word, and we believe, and I know shareholders maybe in the short term are feeling a little bit of pain, but we're very confident that in the long term the shareholders are going to be very satisfied with the end result. And we're happy and proud and confident that we're on the right track. So just to wrap up, I know you'll probably hear a lot more from me and JP over the next coming weeks and months, sort of as things start to really accelerate and we start to really build some substantial momentum into our future plans. I just want to thank all the loyal shareholders, for sticking with us through this time. I know it's been a real testing time when your account is going red on a daily basis across the board. You have to think carefully about which companies you want to hold and which ones you don't. And I'm just hoping that you stick with us and believe in us in the long term. I know we certainly do, and I'm sure those that don't believe in us in the short term may live to regret that. So, again, just thanks to everybody. Thanks especially to my team. Thanks to the shareholders. Thanks to everybody that's working with us. And we look very much forward to the next chapter, and look forward to sharing some interesting news with you over the coming weeks.